All right, we are live. Zoom webinars always always get me with the start. It's quite interesting to get started on these, but we are going. We are live right now. And yeah, it's pretty exciting. We're going to be talking about the future of code quality and the future of code reviews. And we have some great guests to join us here. We have Roeland, the co-founder and COO of Aikido, and we have Khachatur. And this is interesting because code quality and security tools have typically been different. And if you know Aikido, you will know of us as a security tool. And if you know of Trag, you'll know of Trag as a code quality tool. Of course, we're combined together now with the acquisition. And so we're bringing on the CEO and founder of Treg and Roland to discuss a little bit about this. So I'm going to invite you guys to turn on your cameras, turn on your microphones, say hello to the world. We'll do an introduction
Hey, hey,
with you.
I cannot turn on my camera because you need to allow me to.
Wow, you're in the you're in the naughty. See, I think there we are. Uh,
There we go. Yeah, I got the prompt. Hi, everyone.
there we are. Perfect. Roland, well, we'll start with you, seeing as you're on screen. Do you want to give just a quick introduction of who you are, and then we'll move on to Khachatur.
Yeah, for sure. Hi, I'm Roland. I'm one of the co-founders of Aikido. I'm calling in from Ghent in Belgium, where our HQ is located. And I think literally 3 years ago, August 28th of 2022, we pulled the trigger by then to start this company, Aikido, and then we incorporated in October, a couple of months later. We started out on code security side of things, and now here we are with code quality. And that's a little bit of like where we've come from and where we're heading towards.
Is it Akito's birthday today? Am I hearing that right?
Maybe like the ideation birthday or the decision to start the company birthday, but the incorporation is in October. That's our official birthday.
Wow, wow. Okay, that's super cool. All right, Khachatur, or also known as K.
Yeah.
I can pronounce your name now, so I'm going to go ahead and use it. But welcome to there. Do you want to give a quick introduction of yourself and where you're calling in from?
Sure. Hello, everybody. I'm calling in from Yerevan, Armenia. And yeah, Trag is a journey of a couple of engineers trying to fix their own problem and eventually building partnerships and eventually merging with Aikido because we believe, I think, in a same shared mission on how we can make code quality better. So yeah, pretty heavy engineering team, pretty heavy engineering background, and here to discuss cool stuff.
Well, let's get straight into it. I'm going to stop sharing my screen because I don't want to be distracted by fancy slides. I kind of just want to be centered. So, Roland, I'm going to start with you. Let's talk about the acquisition of Treg, and I think more and more holistically, kind of why Aikido was interested in the code quality space. So, what gap did you kind of see and you wanted to fill with this acquisition, but also just in general?
Yeah. I think there's two main reasons that we decided to do this in general. The first one is our customers in general indicated that they're interested in this, and I think it's because we are doing static code analysis, but we are doing it for the purpose of security, often called SAST, if you will. And so over the last years, we've really built that out as a first-class citizen. We've contributed to the Open Grab project. We've written our own rules. We have our own SAST rule writers in-house and all of that good stuff. And we've built out a complete feature set that ranges from the IDE and the plugins there, the PR checks, the pipelines, the CI, the repo scanning. And so we deal a lot with code in general, and we are in all these different places. And so then when our customers are using us and when we're in these places, they're like, while you're there, you might as well help us out with the code quality side of things because everybody knows that quality code is secure code and the other way around. And in many ways, they're two sides of the same coin. And so customers were really giving us good input and feedback on that. And so we listened to that. And that is one reason why we chose to do this. A second reason in general would be that with the LLMs, we really believe that it's like a level playing field again. for the world of static code in general. I think a lot of companies in general and players in this industry will have to rethink how it is done generally. LMs are, as we all know by now, great at writing code, generating code, understanding code, and it just brings this whole new era, I think, to static code analysis and everything that has to do with code. And so while maybe big incumbents have to like rethink how they do that, we saw a unique opportunity to like enter this market on this new level playing field and really make something meaningful in it or to it. So to sum it up, it just made sense to do it because we're there in all these places and our customers were asking for it. And then secondly, with LLMs, there's a new opportunity to enter this market. And so that's the second reason why we're doing this.
I mean, absolutely. And Aikido's mission, kind of famously in the company, is that everything we do is to kind of help make security more developer friendly in areas like that. Um, how does that kind of extend into code quality as well? And I guess the broader mission of where we're going to take this feature set.
Is that another question for me or for Kay?
I was gonna go a question for you, Roland, because this is about Aikido's vision, but we'll get to
Yeah.
Kate soon.
I think the one of the first features that where we were using LLMs was the auto fix, where we basically have a static code issue and then we're prompting the LLM to basically provide a fix for it. And we've really gone deep on that. We go rule by rule, language by language. We have a performance benchmark and all of that good stuff, and a lot of prompt engineering that goes into it. And then we expanded that into a AI auto triage where uh, before fixing it, maybe it doesn't need to be fixed because it's a false positive. And so we use LLMs in a similar fashion, like rule by rule, language by language, where we have auto triage checks on it. And from there, we started like to expand this overall offering, and it has gotten us not too long ago to a container autofix where we upgrade the container and then we fix a lot of issues in there as well. And so bit by bit, we're getting closer to maybe this ultimate vision of automated software maintenance. I think that's maybe like the phrase that you could put on it. And code quality is a huge part of that in general. I think what you see now with like AI autofix, AI auto triage, AI container autofix, the LLM driven code quality, those are like the first features that are all contributing to what over time will be automated software maintenance. And I think that's what we're building towards in general.
Awesome, awesome. Thanks, Roland. I've got some more questions for you later, but I kind of want to get into some of the nitty gritty with Khachatur here. Kay, Roland was talking a lot about being AI native, the level playing field, everything like that. How has kind of the AI game and building something AI native really changed it in your perspective with code quality? Like what changed that made you want to jump in on this AI native project?
Yeah. So that's a very good question. So essentially, software engineering is one of the oldest tech things, right? Besides like the security, it could be hardware, etc. Right? So inherently, our job as software engineers will like automate most of the way and try to understand if this thing, whenever this ships to our customers, does it perform well? Does it do well? Do we have any issues there, etc., etc. Right? So, and when the cycle of the releases is so small, it's not a hardware that you need to manufacture and then ship. You can just literally just ship to production pretty much 50 times a day, etc. Right? So that brings to a very short span of the things that we do, essentially to static analysis, to formatting, to security checks, etc., etc. Right? But there was always a huge gap in which the static tools, that's why they're static, right? They do not automate the business logic issues, some harder stuff that we need, the humans try to find it. Usually in a process called code reviews, right? That's the sacred place of engineers collaborating with each other, try to find potential issues that those tools have missed, right? And whenever we saw at Trag the very first glimpse of how we can use LLMs not to generate the code, but how to interpret the code, and try to analyze it as a human can, but on the analysis level and not just the fixed level, that immediately like brought an interesting like swarm of ideas on how we can use it. And that's pretty much the huge gap of like, okay, this is the human person, need to intervene here, need to assess the code, need to reason about the code. Let's just take some percentage of that off of the human so they can go and perform tasks they're best at, and this process can be automated with LLM. So that's one of the huge and one of the biggest reasons.
Yeah, and that makes sense. How does it work from a technical point of view? So, code quality, well, like, let's talk about SAS. Something I'm probably a bit more familiar with is that we have these rule sets, and it's kind of a pass fail on these rule sets that we create. Code quality has a little bit of nuance to it. How does it work with Treg and I guess now Aikido in the natural language component of this, setting up rules and
Mhm.
enforcing it? How does that work from a technical point of view?
Sure. So one of the lowest hanging fruits was like writing or configuring a rule was super hard. And if we're not speaking about an advanced rule set, right? Not everybody can do it. If someone wants to do it, it's time consuming. It's like a very tough thing to put on an engineer, right? So writing them in natural language was the very best, like the very first best intuitive work that we could have done. It's like, okay, let's just bring the rule creation to the most like easiest way to communicate with is just English, right? Although we have a joke within Aikido that we can write those rules in French, in other languages, but that's like the funniest part of it, right? Whenever you bring closer the automation to the language that we speak, it's much easier to do that, right? So if at first we've automated that way, right? So we've bridged that gap. So now the rule creation is very intuitive, it's very fast, it's very easy to write a rule, and it's easy to write a custom rule. So what goes under the hood is the LLM starts to process whatever code changes have occurred, right? So we are connecting with the version control systems. You get the diff, we start to analyze, and then you start to kind of crawl your way around, try to gather as much information as we can, as like a human would do, right? Let's pretend that you have a code change and you share these code changes with a senior engineer, and the senior engineer will just pick the diff and then try to walk from that to the point where they have enough context and when they can make decision. So that's essentially interpreted inside what we have built at Trag and what we have built at Aikido. Essentially, we get the context, we get understanding of what is going on, and then depending on that, we can match a custom rule that the customer wrote, an engineer, and to understand if this rule is violated in this code change or not, right? In this case, pretty much you never tackle the configuration files, you never tackle anything. You just share your internal tribal knowledge within custom rule, and those custom rules they are getting automated. So that's pretty much the easiest way of having an assistant saying, just double check that this is okay, and it does it.
Yeah, it really reminds me, like when you describe this process to me, and I had this moment before, is when you're writing a rule with Aikido's code quality and Treg's code quality, you write it as if you're explaining it to someone who would then go off and create
Exactly.
a very complicated rule set to try and match that. And then there'd be a whole series of tests to see, are we going to catch this and how do we write this and what's the best one? That whole second part is essentially gone now. You're essentially just kind of telling someone, I want a rule that means we're only allowing this base image in Docker files. I write that exactly as a human, and it can go and check and add that code quality.
Exactly. And if you that connects very well to what Roland said in terms of the broader vision of going towards software maintenance, automating the software maintenance. It is the point where you can speak essentially to your code base, to your entire infrastructure at some point, and make it follow whatever your intent is. It is easier to manage, it is easier to secure, it is easier to live off the world of like different frameworks, different libraries, etc.
Yeah. Um, I have a curveball question here. Maybe I'll regret asking this. But we have a lot of we're a very international team. There's a lot of languages going on. What languages do we currently support? What languages in terms of English, French, Flemish, can you write rules in at the moment?
Okay, so that's a tricky question. We every time we're doing this in English, right? But we do not have a specific benchmark of telling that if you write this rule in French, it will be better. So we do have, let's answer this way. Any LLM that we're using under the hood, they understand different languages. So if they understand, they also can interpret them. So, but everything goes with English right now.
Yeah, yeah, that makes sense. This was not in my pre-planned question set. Something I was literally just thinking of. I'm curious of myself. So but that's awesome. I asked Roland a question, or kind of a variant of a question that was basically, why does code quality and SAST kind of or security fit together so well? I want to ask you, Kay, the same question here. Why do you think that code quality and static code analysis or security in general fit together so well in this context?
Maybe you want to go, Roland, at first?
No,
Oh, Roland's already asked it, so I'm gonna go with you,
go
Kay.
for it.
Okay, so I think the best analogy is we're not just talking about this as it's just a good sentence by saying quality code is secure code, because every quality building is easy to evacuate. The quality buildings are easy to maintain. The quality buildings is easy to put people into, work from there, etc. Right? So it is not just a metaphor. If you project that to pretty much everything, the quality speaks of longevity, the quality speaks of rigidness, the quality speaks of insurance. So that brings us into the software. When we speak about the quality code, we mean that we can rest assured that certain things are intended, and we get more into deterministic systems rather than just having very high entropy systems, right? Whenever you go to sleep and then your pager today starts to just notify every single on-call engineers, that's a totally different story, right? So that's very critical, because pretty much every company in the history of software engineering, when they started working with quality, eventually they found their way somehow into the security, better, maybe that with the luck or some business issues, etc. But that it's the natural progression of what quality means, right? So coming from the code quality side of things, what means for us to make sure that the source code is in the best quality, that means it's inherently at least a little bit more secure. That means we can contribute to the security of the software a little bit. And then if we make it more quality, it can go up a little bit, right? But then again, from the other side comes the security platforms like Aikido, right? When they can cover the whole rest. So that's from my side.
Yeah, definitely, and I think that makes a whole lot of sense in there for it, especially when you're considering. And I like the analogy you use of the buildings. You know, when quality code is easy to maintain, areas like that, security vulnerabilities will be so much easier to fix when everything is well maintained. And yeah, I have a devil's advocate question here, if that's okay. And if it's not, I'm still going to ask it. So we're going to. But what are the kind of the risks here of kind of moving away from traditional linting type tools or traditional rules? Are there risks involved in that, and how are they kind of mitigated here? And I guess the underlying risk is what happens, because we're no longer dealing with deterministic, we're dealing with non-deterministic. So what happens when there is ambiguity in the results?
There's a very interesting analogy in here too. Whenever you have a code change and you present that code change in your company to different engineers, different senior engineers, you might get different opinions. So if we take that view, non-determinism of LLMs kind of helps us here, right? Because we can have more diverse opinions, we can have more different flavors of different changes inside the source code. But that's an inherent challenge, right? I can say from very early days at Trag, it was one of the hardest parts to communicate with customers that whenever we speak about the rule, we anticipate that to be matched with 100% determinism. I think right now it slowly have changed, where people have used more LLMs in coding specifically. So then they understand that those rules are more like 99% guiding the LLM towards the correct way. And then this 1% kind of has this little spice on top of it where LLM can open up its reasoning field and then come with an intelligent answer. We can argue that it can always be a problem, but then again, if we are using an intelligent system, somewhat intelligent system to help us write the code, it's better to have an intelligent system also to help us with make sure it's in best quality, because we do not see at Aikido, we do not see into like a point where we slow down using AI in code generation. That's never going to happen. So that means we need to have more and better ways to make sure that the AI generated code is in best shape and is best quality.
Yeah, that makes sense. Makes sense. Okay, I want to kind of broaden things out a little bit. I have a question. I'm going to ask this question both to you and to Roeland. So I'm going to start with you, Kay, because you're up on the screen, and then I promise you can have a little bit of a breather. I've been grilling you a bit, I know. So, things are moving extremely quickly. It's actually Aikido's third birthday today. So when you put that into perspective on everything that's happened in the last 3 years at Aikido, we're now at a team of 120. Trag is also was growing extremely quickly. Where on earth are we going to be with a focus on code quality in a couple of years? So in 2 and 5 years down the line, how has code quality changed fundamentally? And we can also sprinkle into this, how has it static analysis and for security also changed? What's your opinion there?
I will start answering this with a joke. There is always a meme in engineering world where you just push to production. I think that will stop being a meme in upcoming 5 years, because we will have intelligent systems generating the code. We will have intelligent systems making sure that it's secure, it's in best quality. It adheres with all the standards that we have set as an engineering organization. So that means we will ship much faster, even though right now we sometimes ship 40, 50 times a day. We will just ship twice as many changes, 3 times as many changes. And we actually need more people, right? We actually need more people to use those intelligent systems to contribute to what we're building here at Aikido to serve our customers, right? So that means we can solve one more problem for the customer. That means that we can secure one more infrastructure thing. That means that we can secure more things, right? And in terms of the daily workflows, I would say I can see a world where right now, even there are certain cases where we do not write the code itself. We interact mostly with an agent. Those agentic systems are getting better. So, for example, Cloud Code, Codex, those kind of tools, they're getting industry standards, and I'm not speaking about Cursor, right? Working closely with those tools, helping those tools thrive before things will go into code reviews, etc. That is also something that we're looking for deeply, like to understand, okay, if this change goes into the GitHub pull request, make sure that everything is good so we do not waste any other time. So there's just everything is in best shape, right? So I think the main factor is the acceleration. Right now we're accelerating, and we will be accelerated for a very long time. So that means that we just solve more problems, right?
Yeah. Roeland, I'm going to head over to you and ask the same question now. Where do you see kind of the SaaS and code quality space evolving with Aikido over the next couple of years? What's the vision here?
There's a couple of immediate things, like finding stuff is one thing, and then finding good stuff is the next thing. Like not having false positives and things that are really worth your time to look at it. But then finding it is one thing, but then fixing it is another thing. So I would say there's a natural progression there to be made where we could also help you auto fix some of those things. And then once we can help you auto fix it and you're in the IDE, you're in the PRs, like you want to make that super productive, kind of like co-pilot-ish type of things where you really are aiding the developer right there and then. So I think that will be a natural progression that we'll see. And then another progression or trend that we'll see is, and I'll use a metaphor for this, like building or renovating a house. Like I bought a house like a year and a half ago or something like that, and you start with like, well, let's fix this one thing, and then you ask for a quote, you look for some solutions, and then it turns out like, hey, you could fix this thing, but like while you're at it, maybe it's actually a better idea to like while you're opening up this stuff for renovating stuff, do this and this as well. And you're like, okay, maybe I should do that as well, and I'm now spending more money and more time at this point. And then when you get to that next level, when you're like, hey, while you're doing this, maybe you just should take out your whole floor and we'll just start from there. And then we could do that, and that while you're at it, and you're going to save a lot of money because you're going to do it all at once. And I think it's similar with fixing code where there's like levels to it, and you can get on this rabbit hole, right? It can get super, super deep. Um, but I think with the LLMs and the code quality and the feature set and the evolution and acceleration, that we will become better and better at picking our battles and picking the scope of the battle, and actually going a lot deeper than just these code quality rules, right? It's part of a bigger picture. And so it'll be super exciting to see how many levels deep that we can go without breaking stuff or without having too much scope creep. And yeah, we'll be on that journey. We'll be part of. We'll be in the driver's seat for a lot of it.
You really hit me with some trauma there because I'm also renovating Roland, and yeah,
Yeah.
I could feel you. We changed our stairs and had to like knock down all of our walls.
Yep.
So
That's how it goes, right?
thanks for that. All right, let's move along. Look, I'm conscious of times because we try and keep things pretty snappy and just to the key points here. So we do want to wrap up, and I want to have some time left for questions. But Roland, is it possible now that we're live with Code Quality to give us a little bit of a demo of actually what this looks like in the Aikido platform?
Yes. Let me get my screen share going here.
And while the screen share is happening, there was a question in the chat about code coverage, and
Mm-hmm.
so this is something that we're working on, and I think will be features that we kind of naturally progress with later on. But currently, code coverage is not something that we're tackling with code quality at the moment. But where the screen share is up, so let's go for it.
All right. So yeah, this is simply the starting screen of Aikido, but it already paints the picture a little bit where you hook up your Git, being GitHub, Bitbucket, GitLab. We also do Azure DevOps and all of that good stuff. And then basically, you would select which repositories that you want to connect to Aikido. And in my instance here, I have 77 that are connected, and that would be scanned. And so what we've had so far with Aikido today is that we'll scan them for the open source dependencies, the secrets, the SAST, the security static code. And now here you can see this new section called code quality. And here you can see that it's been enabled for 2 out of the 75 repos. What this actually means is that it's going to check every PR that is going to get created with all of the checks that you turn on. And so we have a base set of checks, which you can see here in this default section. And you can see categories like logic bugs, bug risk, readability, and all of that good stuff. You can see the languages and so on that we support. But then you can also add custom rules. And this is where this English context comes in. And then you could write anything that you would like. You can generate examples, select the languages for which you want to activate it, validate the rule. And so we see a lot of people embracing this quite quickly already. But beyond that, what we haven't actually talked about yet, beyond writing your own English rules, you can also write English context to add to your repository. So, for example, here I added one before this webinar. For example, in this repo, memory bugs are super critical to track. And so you can write that rule, you can specify for which repositories that applies, you can specify which teams that this should definitely apply to. And so giving this extra context will help the bot or the review to do a better job in general. But what I'm basically showing so far is kind of more like the admin side of things, or kind of more the setup as well, if you will. But where the action actually happens is on the PR, right? Like when a developer ships new code. This is more the world where the action will be happening. Is that Aikido will leave a comment on there telling you where and when and what the code quality engine found. In this case, a generic or short name makes code hard to read. If you want to inspect a little bit more, understand better why, you can click on this more info. And then basically it will bring you to the screen where, in this case, the CI gate failed, or the PR was not merged because it contained these code quality issues. And then here you could see in a little bit more detail what is going on here, how you can fix it, and you can see on which line of code it is. And this is the first iteration where we do it on the PRs. The next iteration will be to do it in the IDEs. We already have IDE plugins today where we do SAST scanning. So next up, we'll be adding the code quality scanning to it. And then in the third phase will be to scan the code quality of our entire repository as more of an overall assessment. That serves maybe a different use case, but those are kind of like the steps that we will be undertaking.
Awesome. Thanks for that, Roland. It's really cool to kind of see it in use. And what I will say is, when you get access to this code quality, and I would recommend that everyone does, is when you write your first human rule and it finds something, it's a really cool moment. So like you wanna have that experience. There is a Q&A tab at the bottom of the corner. If everyone here has any questions, please feel free to write them in there. I'll ask the guests as they come in. We have one here, and this question is, I guess it's going to be for Khachatur, is what is the latency effect on the CI/CD pipeline? Or performance effects? I guess this is kind of coming out for large organizations. So Khachatur or Roeland, I'm not sure who might be best to answer that. But what performance kind of impacts does this have?
Yeah, I can quickly answer from the code quality side of things. Of course, as we're using LLMs, we're using the best providers. So that means that we're naturally picking the best, like the lowest latency that we can use from the inside in the market. But gradually we're moving towards having a system which is like very fast first comment, and then you can kind of see as like how natural, like exactly how human would review it. The first comment comes in, and then the next one comes in, and then the next one comes in. So you have something to work with, and then the reviewer, the actual LLM, starts to propagate more and more and more issues if there is issues. So there's like this. We internally call it streaming. So we are there, but we have a lot of places to optimize there a lot too. But I guess right now so in terms of the interaction with the bot, latency is one of our critical aspects, because we do not want a CI gate to be failed and it to be failed for a very long time. We do not want the person to sit in a PR thread and do not see anything, right? So the speed and the latency is the highest priority for us, and will be for a very, very long period of time. So if anybody thinks about it, and if anybody thinks that we're not that fast, so please let us know. We gather that feedback right now, but I think we're pretty good at that right now.
Yeah, awesome. While you're on the screen, I think I have another one here, which is, can you give us some examples of rules you could write for security in this? And I mean, it's kind of like a little bit different because security rules and code quality rules are different. But one that jumps out to me, and maybe you'll have additional ones, would be things like enforcing particular base images in Docker files. It's not a security thing, but it could be, because you're enforcing quality. What are some other kind of security rules that jump out to you, Khachatur, that you could
one very not particular security one, but closer to that, more like privacy issues, etc. So for example, we as engineers, we do collect a lot of logs, a lot of things on what is going on inside our production. and we might have our own log processing or our own logging system. That means that, for example, our own logging system can anonymize some certain things, or the logging system can just delete some things to just not have those inside the logging environment. So one of the potential custom rules that I would write is that to make sure that every time we're using our own custom logger, to make sure that there's no any privacy concerns with the sensitive data. That's one of the easiest, like the low-hanging fruits that I just thought about on top of my head. But usually the interesting stuff is that the custom rule interface essentially is the place where things can be totally different. So a security rule for you might not be a security rule for my engineering organization. So that's the beauty and that's where the custom rules shine, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I have another one here that's coming. That's going to be great for you, Khachatur. Is can Trag be used in proprietary low-code language based on XML?
So that's a very interesting question. It depends on how proprietary the thing is, right? That's why we have the code context, and that's why we're going to expand it more and more. That means that whenever you have some locked-in data which is only available within your engineering organization, you can expose that data to those learnings, and then Aikido Code Quality Platform can actually learn from that and then make sure that the certain things are enforced, right? So if there is something that the LLMs were never trained on, and we haven't done anything extra to be able to understand that language, then we need to leverage more the extra learnings and code context, which will get that feature will evolve a lot on having like an internal wiki, etc., etc. So based on that, we can of course do that. So there's a feature for that. Yes.
Okay, awesome. Well, we have another question here, which is kind of talking about how we compare to things. I think that question is probably going to be best answered in a follow-up email, just because we don't have, just because it's going to be easier when we're doing comparisons to other tools. But I want to thank you and Roeland and Khachatur. Bart, I will answer your question in an email that you've sent through. But thank you so much for coming to the webinar, everyone. I hope you enjoyed it. We're unbelievably excited to have Trag as part of the Aikido offering. We're really excited to have code quality in there. It's a very natural progression once you actually see it in the product. So thank you all for attending. Thank you, Khachatur. Thank you, Roeland. And we'll see you all on the next webinar.
Thank you all.
Bye bye.